Welcome to Monday Morning Methane. This is week 10 of the most exciting Monday morning methane show on the planet, at least as far as we're concerned. Today, we're really lucky to have a Highwood resident expert, Bruna Palma, joining us from the consulting team. Bruna's been with us for quite a few years now and has been specializing in methane detection and quantification technology, simulation, and supporting clients with figuring out how to deploy technology more efficiently. As many of you know, there's dozens, if not hundreds, of technologies out there available in all shapes and sizes. And so that presents immense opportunity to both make mistakes, but also to create efficiencies in how technologies are deployed. So, Bruna, welcome to Monday Morning Methane. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Thomas, for having me. Really excited to be here.
Awesome. Maybe let's just start. You can tell everybody a little bit about who you are and what you do at Highwood.
For sure. So, my background is in chemical engineer. I did my master's here at the University of Calgary, and prior to that, I spent a few years in R&D in an energy company in Brazil. Most of my time, I'm helping clients to decide which types of technology they should use, what sensitivity they need, how frequent they should deploy it. Like it gets complex. Now we're talking about sample sizes and those kind of things. So it's helping those clients to answer those hard to answer questions. So LDAR-Sim is a model that we use to help to optimize those programs. And the way that the name, it's a little bit outdated right now because in the past we used to use just for LDAR, but now we have the version 4, so we're using for way more than that. But the idea is that it's a simulator that simulates oil and gas facilities and the emissions that come from it. So you can use your historical data to replicate what you're seeing in the field and test different technology deployments. So basically, you parameterize everything that you have in a virtual world and you test. Let's say if you deploy a plane 3 times a year, what is the mitigation that you get? What is the uncertainty in my measurement? There are a lot of questions that you can have, even travel time and those kind of things. But it's basically that you build a virtual world, you deploy the technologies, different programs, and compare and have the metrics for what you want to do. It's a really powerful tool for decision making because you don't actually need to spend tons of money doing pilots. You actually can test and see how it works. We have been using in the past to optimize LDAR programs for regulatory approvals, for all sort of things.
How are some of your customers thinking about using LDAR-Sim to reduce costs while not compromising on their environmental goals? And I'm wondering if maybe you can share an example of a project, even using example data of a company and what they used and how they benefited from optimizing their LDAR program.
Yeah, so right now, one thing that changed is that you have a lot of flexibility on how you perform your LDAR, something that we didn't have a lot in the past, but you can choose different technologies and you can even propose a different work practice depending on the jurisdiction that you are on. So we have clients, for example, most simple case, if you don't want to use a different technology, let's say that you want to use OGI surveys that you have been using in the past, but you want to deploy them more strategically, you can use the historical data to see, should I be focusing some sites and doing less surveys in other sites? How this impacts my mitigation? So this is one of the things that we did in the past. I have an example that I can show you. It's not
Sure, and, and,
exactly.
and just to clarify, you're saying that I think what you're suggesting is some people when they think of technology optimization, they think of, oh my God, there's satellites and drones and aircraft and like how many do I use, where and at what survey frequency. But what you're saying is that you can actually get a lot of value by just saying, how do I optimize only my OGI camera program or leak detection program?
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Just going to the sites that you know that leak more and going less often to the ones that you know that it's not a huge problem. So basically, focus on what it matters the most. And so here's the example that I'm kind of framing. So
Hmm.
let's say that you're conducting OGI surveys in all your sites 3 times per year, no differentiation between that. But you have been doing this for the last 3 years, and you notice that you have some sites that rarely leak, while a subset of your sites have a lot of leaks. And you think, can I do this smarter? Why I'm going and driving that far for something that I'm not finding anything? So one thing that we could do is use historical data. So we evaluate how large those leaks are. Is it consistent? So for this example, I'm assuming that the leak rate distribution for all the sites is similar, but you notice that 30% of your sites have a high frequency of leaks. Let's say 20 leaks per year per facility, while your other sites have just 2 years per year, 2 leaks per year. And you want to see, what can I do about that? How can I be smarter? So one question that you could have is, what if I do 4 surveys at those sites that leak a lot, but only 2 at those sites that don't leak as much? Or if I can I be more aggressive? Can I do 4 at those that leak a lot, but then just do 1 annual surveys to make sure that I clean those sites that don't leak as much? And how can I know if this change my overall emissions and how much this will impact my cost? So
So,
those are
so
things that you could. Sorry.
let me say that back to you just so I make sure I understand and that
Mm-hmm,
our listeners are on the same page too. So I'm an oil and gas company. I
mm-hmm.
have a leak detection and repair program using OGI cameras, and
Yes.
I'm considering three different program options. One where I deploy OGI, I do LDAR surveys at 100% of my sites 3 times per year,
Exactly.
and one where I visit only the highest emitting sites more often, and so 4 times per year, and the
Yes.
lower emitting sites twice per year. And then a third option where I actually only visit the lowest emitting sites 1 time per year and focus my energy on visiting the highest emitting sites 4 times per year. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. And then you can reduce the volume of surveys that you are doing. If you think about your 30%, increase it just 1 survey and then reduce 70% of your sites to just one. Imagine how
Hmm.
much driving time and operator time you're saving with that.
Well, there's a safety factor too if you can spend less time on the road, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Especially if those sites are remote, which they usually are.
yeah.
So it's definitely a huge win. So here is one of the outputs that you can have from the model. What you're looking here is the mitigation cost. So how much you spend per ton of CO2e that you avoid with those LDAR programs. So we have the LDAR one, which is your baseline you're doing 3 times per year everywhere. We have the middle ground here where you increase the high emitting sites to 4 times, but you keep 2 times per year for your low emitting sites. And you
Hmm.
have the Elder 3, where you do 4 times at high emitting sites and just annual surveys at those low emitting sites. And if you see, in terms of mitigation, they're almost the same. For the Elder 2, you actually have a little bit of a boost in the mitigation. So you emit 3% less than your original program. And for Elder 3, you emit 2% more than your original program. But when you look at the cost, you have a significant gap. So we start at 0.37 37 cents per ton of CO2 avoided with your first program. This
Hmm.
dropped to 32 cents for LDAR 2. So 14% mitigation cost drop. And for LDAR-3, just reducing 2%, just emitting 2% more, you have 34% mitigation cost drop. So it's a huge win in terms of cost. This without talking all the other metrics that you can have, like simplify work practice and all those kind of things. So it's definitely something really simple to do. You use just the historical data that you have been collecting for the past few years, and can have a huge operational improvement.
So, I mean, this is really cool. So in this case, you have an operator who's just saying, I'm going to just do what I've always done. I'm going to do leak detection and repair at all of my sites 3 times per year. And I'm not going to put too much thought into things. And what you did is you took their historical leak data, put it into the LDAR-Sim model, which by the way is an open source model. Anyone can download it and use it. And then you said, okay, what happens if we are a little bit more intelligent about where we send our resources? And you discovered a program where you can achieve basically the exact same environmental outcome by spending 34% less money.
Yeah, and this is really simplified, but LDAR-Sim allows you to parameterize with all the data that you have. So if you have different costs for different sites, different driving times, different survey times, everything can be incorporated. So it makes easier because when you have to do those analyses without the model, it's really hard to account for all those variables. And
Mhm.
then putting the model makes it a little bit easier.
Just wrapping up here, Bruna, maybe I'll ask you one more question because we do try to keep these short, even though I have so many questions and your work is really interesting. Do you, do you see a lot of operators using these types of optimization strategies? And do you think they should be?
I think they should be using more. I don't know if everyone knows that those tools are available and the powerful data that they have. I think one thing that changed a lot in the past 3 to 4 years that I've been working with that is that people are collecting more and more data because they need for regulatory compliance for voluntary initiatives. So they already have that and they are not using it. So I think this is one of the things that change and could motivate people to do those sort of optimizations.
Hmm.
And I also think right now you have way more flexibility in terms of the technology that you can use. Most voluntary initiatives, they're not technology prescriptive, so you can choose what you want to do. And also you have more box to check. You don't have to do just your LDAR. You need to have your measurement campaign for OGMP. You need to comply with Quad B and all those kind of things. So how can you check multiple boxes at the same time? And I have seen people struggling with that. Even
Hmm.
like defining frequency because it before was really easy. It's prescribed that you do what you need to do. But right now you have some room to optimize that, and I think people are not using the tools that are available. So I think there is a lot of opportunity there.
Yeah, and I mean, how many parameters does LDAR-Sim have now that you can kind of tweak different you know scenarios? Like, what if I wait like an extra 5 days on average for every repair that I make, or what if the environmental conditions aren't appropriate at the time that I perform my survey? Can you just comment on that quickly?
More than 100. So the weather, for example, it's one thing. So all the facilities that you add into the model, you have your exactly let and long. So we have historical weather, so you know how this is impacting your technology deployment. You can test what if I'm not deploying January and February because it's too cold, and I'm deploying between those months. How does it change? You can change driving time. You can change how much the survey takes. You can change quantification uncertainty of your technology. Um, like in terms of the model, I think the major limitation is having all the data. For example, technology is being tested and you're being able to incorporate that. But in terms of what you can tell the model and tune to your specifics, there's a lot.
Okay, well, this is starting to get way too complex, so I think we have to stop now. But
Yeah.
thank you very much for taking the time to join us on Monday Morning Methane. For those of you watching, please feel free to drop a comment, ask Bruno a question. We're happy to weigh in. Feel free to reach out. If you like Monday Morning Methane, please like this post on LinkedIn because it helps us spread the word and the good work that we're doing. So thanks, Bruna. Thanks, everyone. And we'll see you
Thank
next time.
you. Bye.